Well, Republicans are going all in on rural voters. Next year's presidential primary is still a long way off, but voters in Iowa and elsewhere are already paying attention. Former President Trump speaking in Davenport last night. Meantime, Nikki Haley, the former UN ambassador and South Carolina governor, has been to Iowa several times. And Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, while not officially a candidate, promoted his book at 2 Iowa events on Friday. So for more insight, we're joined by Mychael Schnell, congressional reporter with our partners at The Hill. Mychael, thank you as always. Iowa has really been a state Democrats are largely ignoring, but of course, because the president is a Democrat. But talk about how important Iowa is for Republicans ahead of this upcoming election.
No, Nichole, to put it bluntly, it's crucial for Republicans heading into 2024. This is the first in the nation state for Republicans in 2024. So the way you start really will set the tone for the rest of the primaries and caucuses in the 2024 primary. If we remember back in 2016, then candidate Trump, he came in second, just shortly behind Ted Cruz. And at that point, a lot of people weren't sure if Trump was an actual formidable candidate. But that strong showing in Iowa in 2016 really propelled him to then continue running and talking to voters in subsequent states and to attain the nomination. So I think that's one reason why we are seeing a lot of GOP presidential candidates and potential candidates, the ones who haven't yet announced yet, are flocking to Iowa. We saw DeSantis there. We saw Trump there. Nikki Haley has been there. So I think that we'll be seeing a lot more of this GOP campaigning in Iowa.
Well, Mychael, we were just before this taking a look at video of the former president there in Iowa. We know he drew a large crowd, did take some swipes at Ron DeSantis, who is the undeclared candidate right now. But is Ron DeSantis really his only true competition at this point?
I definitely don't think it's fair to call him his only competition, Nichole, but definitely his most formidable opponent at this point. Obviously, Nikki Haley has announced her presidential campaign. She has been on the stump in a number of states since announcing last month. So she's a strong candidate to be taking on former President Trump. But as we see a number of these polls come out about what the GOP field may look like, polling a number of these potential candidates, we see mainly Trump coming in first and DeSantis coming in a close second. So I think that may be one reason why we see former President Trump taking a particular look and a particular criticism to Ron DeSantis. Another reason why is because they really align on a lot of different policies. Just yesterday, Ron DeSantis filled out a questionnaire saying that Ukraine is not a key national interest for the United States. That notably aligns himself with former President Trump, while someone like Nikki Haley has been adamant about supporting Ukraine amid its battle against Russia. So another reason why Trump may feel like he needs to zero in on DeSantis is because there are less differences, so that can be more of a threat to him.
All right, so when do we expect DeSantis to officially declare his candidacy, Mychael?
That is the question of the hour, Nichole. What DeSantis has said is that he's not going to make a decision until the Florida legislative session wraps up in May. I don't know if many believe that he hasn't made a decision yet, rather than just not announcing yet. Of course, this book tour taking him to a number of states, particularly Iowa. He's been doing a lot of media, but he says he will not be making a decision until May. So we have a little while to keep talking about the possibility of him throwing his hat in the ring.
All right, yeah, at least a few more weeks. Well, Mychael, before we let you go, at the top of this, we talked about the fact that obviously Democrats have a president right now, but are Democrats making a dangerous mistake potentially by maybe seeming to ignore middle America, ignore rural America?
I don't know if we can particularly say that Democrats are wholeheartedly ignoring it, and that's for a couple reasons. First off, just before we came to air, CNN reported that Vice President Kamala Harris is actually going to be traveling to Iowa soon to hold her first event since joining the White House as vice president. She'll be there for an abortion rights event. So that's one example of Democrats heading to Iowa, a notable one at that. But another reason why we aren't seeing Democrats in Iowa as much is Democrats control the White House, so their probable candidate is going to be President Biden. He also has his job of being president every day. But secondly, Iowa's no longer the first in the nation state for Democrats. The DNC had decided a little while back to shake up the order. Now the first state is South Carolina. So no longer is Iowa that really important state where Democratic candidates are going to want to set the tempo for the remainder of the caucus and primary season. So that may be one reason why we see them sort of underscoring and emphasizing Iowa going into 2024. But again, Harris is going there soon, so we may start to see it pick up in the coming weeks.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.